Welcome to Purposely Peaceful. I'm your host, Jessica Rivera, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a quantum hypnosis practitioner. This podcast is where real life meets inner peace. You'll get honest conversations, practical tools, and soulful guidance to help you live with more clarity, calm, and purpose. Hi, welcome back. This episode's about our core values. Everybody's got them, but they aren't always obvious. Values are extremely valuable, right? As I mentioned in the previous episode, that values serve as the guardrails of life. Now, if you haven't ever stopped to think, what are they? We'll start there, but I'm also going to explain the why and the how of how we begin to weave them into our journey through life with this intention of having more peace. I'll share some of my own lessons. This is a rather short episode compared to the other ones, but I wanted to get straight to the point. And I know when we think about our personal values and our core values, it might sound boring. I don't think they're that boring because if you are living life and you have goals and aspirations and intentions in this world, I'd say they're pretty important. And our personal values are our guiding principles that shape how we live our lives. Whether you know it or not, they are always operating in the background. What I'm asking you is, do you know that it's happening? Do you have an awareness about what your values are and how they are shaping your life? They evolve with you. What may be of importance now might look different a day from now or even a decade from now. Each season of life might require something different. Our focus, beliefs, and lessons are constantly leading us to shift and adapt. My values for most of my life weren't defined. I just lived as I always have, trusting my intuition or by going against it and learning my lesson the hard way. It wasn't until 2020 that it became crystal clear what they were. And I know that I talk about this in the first couple of episodes, but long story short, what I learned was to value my inner peace, my health, and my family, the ones that are living with me. And as this clarity became laser-like focused, it then shaped my life. That was the first year when it all finally clicked. This quest that I was always on became about finding peace in times of chaos and times of stress. My health and my desire to grow my own food led us to buy a home with a little more space to garden, and we added a flock of chickens, and by mid-2021, I decided to take a year off from work because my kids were struggling. I knew that they needed me. I needed them. I was so burnt out. I was crying every Sunday because I didn't want to work. I was just tapped out in all areas of my life. That year that I didn't work, I would say that the relationships with our children became so much more better. Our marriage became stronger. As a family, I feel that we healed a lot of wounds that we might have had with each other or things that we were struggling with even within ourselves. And we've become so much closer ever since then. And I do think that the health of our relationships has a lot to do with that period of time. But this is a very short version of how my life took shape once I understood what my core values were. Today, which comes at no surprise, I value my inner peace, my mind, my hopes and dreams, my relationships. And I know that sounds cheesy, and I know that I say that all the time, but it's true. Looking through the chaos of life to find peace and purpose in it all sometimes leads to unpopular opinions. Not only do I have to challenge my own thoughts, I get to gently nudge those around me in the direction of their inner peace that might look different than mine. And so here's a real life example of something that's been on my mind, and it's been festering, if I'm being honest. Part of my value system is that I believe that my core values create an impact. They have a ripple effect. Part of this is that I prefer to support small business instead of their corporate counterparts. Why? Because my work is often about supporting people into bringing their hopes and dreams to life, which means I'd prefer to pick the startup, the small business. And recently, when I was tackling some of my to-do list, that meant scheduling an appointment for my daughter to get braces. Facebook had many recommendations for this place, so I thought, why not? It comes highly recommended. We go in, staff is friendly, they schedule us same day that I called, and even had her braces put on that same day. So all of it happened in a day. And as the young lady put my daughter's braces on, I started to take an inventory. This orthodontics office had, I don't know, at least 11 staff members working on patients simultaneously, not including the front and back office staff. So it was a pretty busy place. There's one orthodontic. I don't even know what that's called. Are they doctors? I have no idea. Whatever he is. And so anyway, for whatever reason, I just started doing the math, estimating what he was probably making an hour, then per day, then per year, based on how many kids I saw in there and the price that he charges. And the number that I came up with was like, whoa, this guy has made a very profitable business without touching or building any rapport with his patients. And what I mean by that is he is not very friendly, doesn't make eye contact, and doesn't make any conversation, and definitely doesn't do any of the work to put the braces on, which for whatever reason was shocking to me. I never had them, so I had no idea. Anyway, the way that he was running his business at that point wasn't sitting well with me. But oh well, too late. We're already here. They're literally putting them on. And so I tried not to dwell on it. A couple weeks later, her braces actually break. My husband calls to get her scheduled so they can take care of it. And they told him, well, we don't have anything for a couple of weeks. They couldn't accommodate her. I thought, well, that's weird. Don't really like that, but okay. I saw the way he operated his business, and it shouldn't be hard for someone to see her and spend 5 minutes gluing this little brace thing back on. As of now, they're fixed, but this keeps revisiting me. So it's been bothering me. Part of this is my frustration for giving my money to a place of business that has no heart. I love companies that foster interaction, genuine conversation, and real care, not just I'll care to get you in because you're a new customer, but once you're my customer, meh, we'll see when we get you in. Not into that. And so, of course, this isn't a major problem in my life, but it is a minor irritation, specifically with a business that does not align with my values. So, lesson learned, next time around, I'll make sure to do my due diligence. I should have checked in with my daughter's dentist. I absolutely love him. He makes conversation, he gets to know us. Whatever we ever need, he will always make space to have our kids come in. I call, he answers the phone. I think businesses need to go back to like real customer service. But anyway, that's a tangent that doesn't belong here. So, moving on. Personal values coexist with boundaries, right? They're two independent things, but our values are the reason why we decide to set the boundaries in the first place. For people who are not used to setting boundaries, that's kind of an area of confusion because they don't know, like, even where to begin and why. So, this is a really good first step before you clarify how you want to set boundaries. And this is where you decide for yourself what's most important to you. Your peace? Is it respect? Adventure, health, curiosity, or authenticity? Could be some, could be all. And I will add a link in the show notes if you want to see a list, if you need any ideas. But let me clarify, as I'm talking about these values, let me clarify what I'm not talking about. I'm not including religious or political values in this conversation. Why? Because I don't believe in taking sides and creating more division. It doesn't mean that I don't have a perspective. Personally, I just don't find any use in blaming, pointing fingers, or assuming someone is good or bad over these beliefs. I think that they are a very small percentage of who we are as human beings. I'd also never encourage a toxic trait to be a core value, like spitefulness and revenge and hatred, and I don't know, I can't even think of any more. Toxic traits will likely never lead to peace or sincere joy. Misery loves company, so don't let your ego lead you astray because it's tricky like that. A natural part of understanding our own core values is also respecting someone else's. It's essential to have our own values, our own beliefs, and a genuine respect for others. And so, respect is another one of my core values. I've been disrespected many times, too many times to count if I'm being honest, both physically and emotionally. There have been times when I've disrespected others, definitely not my proudest moments, but through trial and error, I've realized that I have standards about how I expect to be treated, what's okay and what's not okay. And I've also raised the bar about how I treat others. And as the years go by, my values become more clear, more aligned, and lead to an overall happier and fulfilling life. We're never perfect or have a 100% success rate, but when you know what you want in life, it's hard to settle for anything less than. Part of living life is determining the quality of it. Your values will create the pathway, but it's up to you if you want to stay on the path. I'll leave you with this. When you're faced with a dilemma and you're not quite sure how to get through it, ask yourself, does it align with my values? And let that be your guide. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. I hope something here met you right where you are. This podcast is for inspiration only and not a substitute for therapy. I'll catch you on the next one.